Welcome to the Ask the Herbalist podcast with Lily Cunning. That's me, your host. Ask the Herbalist is brought to you by Haven Herbs, which is available to anyone, anywhere at havenherbs.com. Hello, welcome to the very first episode of Ask the Herbalist, a podcast and YouTube series that I am starting. My name is Lily Cunning. I'm an herbalist by trade, and I am the chief formulator for Haven Herbs, which this project is a project of Haven Herbs. And Ask the Herbalist started as just a way drop-in session for people to ask questions of someone who's actually been trained, right? One of the beauties of the internet is that we have access to all of this information. Unfortunately, it also means we don't know how vetted the information is. And I have to tell you, there's some pretty disturbing information out there on the internet about diets and supplementation and lifestyle choices and holistic medicine. And I just felt a big need to educate folks as much as I could. So, Ask the Herbalist started in 2023. Once a month, people could join me on Zoom and I would answer their questions. And then in 2024, because I just kept seeing problems and questions going unanswered or answered in the wrong way, I increased it to once a week. It was every Friday. And that is still the case. You can always reach out to me by email, Lily, Lily, at havenherbs.com and ask me a question, and I will answer. And I also may turn it into a topic on this podcast because my philosophy is that if one person has this question, the chances are more than one person has this question. They just haven't had the opportunity to ask. So we are going to be answering people's questions that have come to me. Of course, they are anonymized. No one's identity is going to be disclosed. So if you have a question, fear not. I am not going to tell people that you asked the question. So getting started with our first question, it comes from the Ask the Herbalist subreddit, and I thought it was a really great question for our first podcast. They ask, hold on a second. There we go. Scroll up. What do you recommend for someone new to this community, trying to live more naturally? What are some good things to have on hand, important swaps to make, and overall, any tips for someone just starting out? Now, I tend to start with the big picture. So that's what I did. That person may be looking for, I like this herb for that. But that is not what I did in my answer because the foundations of wellness are bigger than that. They're all about lifestyle choices. And so, as an herbalist, I work holistically with clients to achieve maximum wellness through lifestyle choices primarily, and then supplements, including herbal ones, are there as support, but the foundation is always about optimizing your wellness through your lifestyle choices. Because the human body is amazing and resilient, and if we give it what it needs, it has the ability to stay well and fight illness when we encounter pathogens. So, starting with diet, here we go. There is no one diet that works for every person. I'm going to say that again. Holistic practitioners do not believe that there is the one true diet for all humans. And I know that this is going to get me in trouble, particularly with vegan activists who are very vocal. But despite what the internet tells you, and despite what the weight loss industry tells you, and despite what vegans tell you, there is no one diet that's good for everyone. Holistic practitioners look at a unique individual and their constitution and their biochemistry and their condition and their symptom manifestation to determine what foods they should be eating in that moment. Um, there are guidelines, of course, broad brushstrokes that you should start with, I highly recommend looking at what the Mediterranean diet or a Japanese diet, the Japanese government has put out in terms of guidelines for healthy food. But as Michael Pollan has famously said, eat food, not too much, mostly plants. And I eat mostly plants. I eat vegetarian and vegan many times a week, but I also eat animal products. I eat eggs, I eat dairy, and I do eat meat, um, because my body needs it. And there are very few human bodies that don't need some kind of animal product from time to time. I am a firm believer that you should be able to get all of your nutrients from your diet. If you have to supplement ongoing, your diet is insufficient. And that is very true with keto, it's very true with veganism, um, with all the fad diets that go around. They are not meant for long term use at all. Um, I do appreciate, veganism and the Whole 30 diet because it gets people back to that foundation of mostly plants. Um, but it's possible to be a junk food vegan. Um, and so it's not a good guideline in and of itself. But eat food, not too much, mostly plants, is a very simple way of putting it, but it is so true. Diet is the foundation of how we rebuild our bodies, how we build cells, how we replenish them. The digestive tract is the first thing that gets created in a new being, the alimentary canal, and it is innervated. It has the endocrine system there, it has the immune system there. Everything starts in the gut, right? So what you eat is really important, and that's why I start there. My second recommendation is looking at your movement. You need to move your body every day. And that movement may vary based on, your condition, or if you have any kind of movement restriction. I do. Back in 2001, I got injured on the job and I've been partially disabled for the rest of my life. But here's the thing. I found movement that worked for me. Even when I was in the early parts of my disability and I had pain every day, I was able to do movement in the pool, right? I could swim, I could do aqua aerobics. That was a lifesaver. The point is to stretch and move your body and have some kind of impact so that your bone cells get recreated and elevate your heart rate every day. Currently, the movement that I do, besides walking my dogs and gardening, is Qigong. Qigong is a fantastic movement modality. Um, just like yoga, you can adapt it for different kinds of mobility impairments. And it works with movement, it works with breath, it's a mindful practice. So I get a lot of bang for my buck there. But I am a firm believer that there is a movement for everybody. Third, I highly recommend looking at stress management. If you are a chronically stressed out person all the time, you need to look at removing the sources of your stress. Living in a constantly stressed out state is a killer. And so I know it's easier said than done, but we need to remove sources of chronic stress, whether that is a crappy job, a bad relationship, um, or a financial stressor, right? We need to get creative and figure out how we're going to eliminate that source of stress. It's not always easy, but having a goal and having a plan to get to that goal will ease the stress, even if you haven't eliminated it yet. Let's say you're looking for a new job. That's stressful. Um, but you're getting rid of the crappy job, right? As long as you have a goal in mind and you are actively working towards that goal, your stress is going to be lessened because you see a light at the end of the tunnel, right? If you have a bad relationship, learning to say no, learning to set boundaries, or possibly cutting that person out of your life is huge. And I know that that's hard, but I've done it. I know what it involves. Um, and I highly recommend removing toxic people from your life. Stress, situational stress is going to happen to us all from time to time, but chronic stress is a killer. So, looking at your stress management. Fourth, I highly recommend sleep hygiene. Everybody needs a different amount of sleep based on how old they are and their condition, but generally speaking, broad brushstrokes, 6 to 8 hours a day is important. And if you have to nap to achieve that total, do it. But one of the things that you can do is to create a routine at night that helps you unwind. That includes no screens, an hour before bed, phones, computers, TVs. It includes eliminating caffeine after 3 p.m. It includes maybe a bath or some herbal tea or some warm milk, things that will start slowing you down and changing those brainwave patterns to a more conducive pattern for sleep. There are other specifics that can be tried, including herbal supplementation for folks that either have trouble getting to sleep or have trouble staying asleep. And I'm happy to answer those questions. Hit me up, Ask the Herbalist, Lily at havenherbs.com, or Ask the Herbalist subreddit. But creating a routine and eliminating some things that tend to keep us from getting good sleep are important. The fifth thing is detoxifying your life. And no, I do not mean colon cleanses or weight loss fasting. Detoxifying is literally removing toxins from your environment, and start with your home. What are you using to clean your body? What are you using to clean your home? What kinds of cookware are you using? There are so many toxic chemicals in a typical US home that indoor air pollution is higher than outdoor air pollution. So, non-stick is toxic. It's a carcinogen, it's an endocrine disruptor. Get rid of nonstick cookware, get yourself a cast iron skillet. The appliances that have nonstick, make sure that they do not overheat. Ovens often are nonstick. Do not use the self-cleaning function on an oven, because that overheats the non-toxic coating. It could kill birds instantly, but it's definitely affecting you too. um, Looking at your body care and your cleaning products on a website like the Environmental Working Group. They have consumer guides and will give you a grade and let you know exactly what those chemicals are, what they do. Are they corrosive? Are they carcinogens? Knowing what you are looking at is important before you bring it into the home. Purge the things that are toxic and do not bring them back in. The other quick swap, which, takes a while, is eliminating plastic from your life. Plastic is killing us all. It's killing the planet. It's killing us. We all have microplastics inside of us. Um, Eliminate plastic. So no more Ziploc baggies. Get glass and ceramic and metal storage for your leftovers, or can things. One of the things that I do now is when I have leftovers, I put them in a canning jar and I put them in my pressure canner as I'm cleaning up. I'm washing the dishes, I'm wiping the surfaces, I'm cleaning up. And once the canner is done, I just turn it off and I leave it overnight. And then I take out my cans and I have shelf stable leftovers without any plastic. Um, so I do that. But there are so many ways to get rid of those toxins in your life. Your cleaning supplies, if you buy commercially made cleaning supplies in a plastic bottle and bring it home, you are toxifying your life. The only things you need to clean your home, and I am not kidding, are baking soda, white vinegar, and rubbing alcohol. That's it. I also tend to use the herb thyme, which is a pathogen killer. It kills more pathogens than bleach. You do not need bleach. Bleach creates dioxin. We do not want that in our environment. But if you infuse your alcohol and your vinegar with thyme, it kills pathogens on surfaces, right? So detoxifying your life is so important. Another way of detoxifying is once you've removed all the bad stuff and you're replacing it with good stuff, um, get a bunch of house plants. Not only is this going to improve your indoor air quality, it's also going to help you stop, slow down, and take care of another living thing. It's going to help with your stress management. If you have anxiety or depression, houseplants are fantastic. And then the last lifestyle recommendation that I have is making room for joy. If your life is a constant hustle, if you are going from job to crashing at home with nothing in between and having to eat fast food multiple times a day because your job tells you how much time you have to eat, um, you are going to be unhealthy, right? We need activities in our life that bring us joy. Whether that's baking or gardening or doing a puzzle or reading for pleasure or taking a walk in a park or a forest, do something every week that brings you joy, multiple times a week if you can. Start small, and add to it. For example, for myself, I volunteer, and that brings me joy. I embroider, and that's something that keeps my hands busy and also is mindfulness practice. I bake, I love to bake. Um, and I spend time with my kid because my kid is awesome. And you never can spend too much time with your kids, honestly. So those are the things I do to take time for myself. And, as an herbalist, yes, plants can strengthen your systems. They can feed you. They can remedy your symptoms and conditions if you're not well, help you create healthy homeostasis. They can make life awesome. You can surround yourself with houseplants and make yourself less anxious and depressed. We've come to a brief intermission. This is the part of the show where I tell you all about Haven Herbs. Haven Herbs is more than this podcast's sponsor, it's my pride and joy. Haven Herbs is my business, Lily Cunning, your host. It boasts over 100 products spanning remedies, tonics, and body care, all sourced ethically. It's never been packaged in plastic, and we continue to work towards zero waste and 100% bioregional and ethical sourcing. We're not there yet, but we make progress every month. We live in uncertain times, and so many are uninsured and underinsured. Haven Herbs continues to work to provide affordable herbal products and accessible holistic wellness education. We truly want to be the people's apothecary. If you want a friendly company to get apothecary items from, please check us out at havenherbs.com. And now, back to our show. So welcome back to part two. So this question was emailed to me by one of my very longtime customers of Haven Herbs. We have a customer base that is incredibly loyal because um, we make all of our products based on customer requests and needs. And again, like I said with questions, if one person has a question, probably more than one person has this question. But with products also, if somebody requests a specific product, chances are other people need it too. So we create formulations based on customer requests. So I have a question here from one of our longtime customers, and she asks, you've got so many products. Which ones do you actually personally use? Um, and that answer varies based on what time of year it is, and if I'm sick or not, as well as my child has aged, different things that he uses also have changed. So I'll start with like my medicine cabinet in the bathroom, and then I'll go on to daily supplementation. As well. So in my medicine cabinet, obviously things for first aid, I always have on hand. One and two things that I can recommend are Boo Boo Balm for cuts and scrapes, which, I always have it on hand along with Band-Aids because, we're always getting banged up. We have lots of animals here and we're active, right? We garden, we go out places, we do things. So having something that replaces Neosporin, which is a petroleum-based product, and also an antibiotic, which they're systemically overused antibiotics. Um, so I don't want to contribute to antibiotic resistance. So we do not use Neosporin, we use Boo Boo Balm. And frankly, those herbs are very effective at not only healing wounds, but also fighting pathogens. Number two is Crud Killer. It's a tincture, which, for those of you that aren't familiar with herbal terms, tinctures are extracts in alcohol and water. My extracts tend to be 100 proof, which is 50% water, 50% ethanol. Crud Killer is a formula, meaning it's multiple herbs and substances in one bottle. Um, and it is a broad spectrum antipathogen, and I've used it in so many ways. So obviously, if you're sick with an infection, you can take it orally. Lots of people do. You can use it topically. If you've got a deep puncture wound, you can treat it with that. And obviously, if it's alcohol based, it stinks, but it gets down deep. I've also used it in my mouth. As I've aged, my gums have receded a bit. It creates little pockets. And so food gets trapped in there. And as try as I might to be good about brushing and flossing and doing all that, sometimes I get like a little tiny localized infection. And Crud Killer multiple times throughout the day, knocks it out of the park. So I always have Crud Killer on hand. I also suffer from seasonal allergies, so I have an allergy formula that I keep on hand during those times, usually spring and fall, because spring is pollen and fall is leaf mold. And those things they make me congested and phlegmy, and I don't like it. Um, I also always have bar soap, usually locally made bar soap. Haven at one time also had bar soaps and shampoo bars. I'm looking to bring those back, but um, I want something that is handcrafted, saponified oil, which means using lye to saponify the oils. I don't much care whether it's vegetable oil, which is Castile soap, or goat's milk or tallow, as long as those oils were clean oils, no pomace grade olive oil, for example, or no palm oil, because that's just not a sustainable product for the most part. But bar soap is what we use in this house. I also, have a deodorant. I have a teenage boy, and he's stinky. And I can also get stinky from being in the garden. So pit paste is something that I use. And I also use Haven's tooth powder. Like I said, I have aging teeth, so I tend to use Solid Smile, which is a remineralizing formula to help harden the enamel. But we also have Black and White, which is a whitening formula. But I use tooth powder instead of toothpaste because tooth powder can be packaged in glass, not plastic, like a tube. And also, when you add any kind of moisture to a formula, you run the risk of it becoming moldy unless you add agents of destruction and preservatives in there. And I don't want to use that on my teeth. So I use tooth powder instead of toothpaste. I also use a rinse that's called Swish and Spit to help stop any bleeding that might be happening after I brush and floss, and to shrink the inflamed tissues from, I don't have great teeth. Uh, my genetics did not go that way. So I'm taking care of my mouth as like one of my big projects these days. I also have Baker's Balm, which is a balm for burns because I like to bake. And so I called it Baker's Balm. And I have a headache roll on because I hate headaches. And my son has a Spot Begone roll on for pimples because he's a teenager. So that's my medicine cabinet. But also, there are supplements that are down on the main floor of my house. Fire cider. I'll either do the original formula or I'll do one of the seasonals that I make. We do a wellness shot every day. Fire cider is really helpful. And I'm recording this at the end of February 2025, and I'm looking out the window and the sky is gray. I live in Ohio, and so we don't get a lot of sun during the winter. So I take vitamin D proactively from October to March on the regular, usually about 5,000 IU a day. So I take vitamin D, and so does my kid. And we also take a mineral supplement because right now we're not growing our own food. And a lot of the food that you buy in supermarkets is just denatured from commercial agriculture. The soil doesn't have as much mineral content, so the plants don't either. So we take a mineral supplement just to keep us well, particularly magnesium, but also it's a compound mineral supplement. So we do that. Um, I hope this answers your question. And if you have questions about what might be useful for you to have on hand, please feel free to email me at Lily, Lily, at havenherbs.com, or ask me on the Ask the Herbalist subreddit. I'm happy to answer and give you some suggestions. All right, we've come to the end of the podcast, and of course, now we need the necessary disclaimers. If you get 10 herbalists in a room, you're going to get 10 different opinions on something. We are a cantankerous lot, so your mileage may vary. The opinions that are expressed here on the podcast are the opinions of the herbalists appearing, including your host, Lily Cunning, and our sponsor, Haven Herbs. Also, some necessary legalese. Lily and Haven and anyone else appearing on this podcast are not your licensed medical provider and therefore can't legally offer advice or products to diagnose, treat, or cure any illness. The content on the podcast is not intended to substitute for advice given by a physician, a pharmacist, or any other licensed healthcare professional. You shouldn't use this information as self-diagnosis or treating a health problem or disease. Information and statements on the podcast regarding dietary supplements have not been evaluated by Health Canada nor the FDA of the United States and are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease or health condition. And of course, see a practitioner of your choosing if your condition persists or worsens. Got it? Great.